Hello guys, this is going to be yet another video in the Excel series. A lot of you have been asking for an Excel video for beginners. So here it is, a basic video on Excel for complete beginners. My name is Yugendra and today we'll be discussing everything you need to know in Excel if you are just starting out. Excel is one of the most underrated software on your computer. It does so much, but we only ever use it for the most boring and tedious tasks. Excel is one of those softwares that we have all used at least a few times but haven't taken it far enough to see what it can really do. In this video, we are going to talk about just that. We will be covering the basics of Excel, which includes entering data in an Excel spreadsheet, navigating through a spreadsheet, using some basic formulas in Excel, creating charts and graphs, using relative and absolute cell references, lookup functions. All of these we will be discussing with the help of simple datasets. But before moving on further with the tutorial, please do like this video and it would mean a lot to us if you could subscribe to our channel for more such videos. Now let us move ahead with the demo. Okay, so this is how a blank worksheet in Excel will look like, and Excel files are known as Excel workbooks because it may contain a collection of worksheets or rather called spreadsheets. So over here you have a sheet 1 icon which says that this is the sheet 1 of this workbook. So if you want to add 2 or more sheets to this workbook, you can do that by clicking on the plus icon, which is the new sheet icon. So what it does is it adds a sheet to the right of the current selected sheet. So that's sheet 2, which is added on the right side of sheet 1. So now if you click on sheet 1 and click on the new sheet icon or the button, it will add the sheet next to sheet 1 itself, not next to sheet 2. So that you can see using this. As you can see, the sheet 3 is added between sheet 1 and sheet 2. So if you want to add a sheet at the end of, all the sheets, so you have to go to the the end sheet first and then click on the plus button. Over here, you can see that the sheet 4 is added at the end. And now let us move on to the ribbons in Excel. So there are 9 ribbons in Excel. So that's File, Home, Insert, Page Layout, Formulas, Data, Review, View and Help. So let us move on to the File ribbon first. So let's see what it contains. So File is basically if you want to create a new workbook, you can go to File option and then create a blank workbook, and you can save the workbook, you can print the workbook, you can share the workbook, and you can also export the workbook into many other platforms. And Home is basically, it contains all the Excel functions, like all the most used Excel functions. So there's formatting options, which is font formatting, and there's alignment options, and there's number formatting options, conditional formatting options, which we'll be looking in the further part of this video, and cells. You can insert, delete or either format cells. And insert is something where we can insert a pivot table, any illustrations like animations or something, and you can insert charts as well, which includes bar graphs, pie charts and many more, and so much more like this. So in page layout is basically you can set the orientation of the Excel workbook or the worksheet, margins of the spreadsheet, the size and the print area of the spreadsheet, and everything else. So you can set the colors and fonts as well. Formulas is nothing but it contains the formulas which you can use to perform calculations in Excel. So there's AutoSum, and recently used formulas are something which we'll be using in the coming part of this video. So this contains the formulas which we have recently used in the worksheet or the spreadsheet. Financial contains all the accounting formulas, and logical will have all the and, if, not operators. Text is the character or the concat functions which you can use on a particular text. Date and time functions as well. So it has the date value, day, days, and so on. And now if you go to the data ribbon, you'll get import options. So that's you can import any file, I mean any file in the sense files which are supported by Excel over here. So that's importing files from text or a CSV file, from a web page, from a table or a range, and recent sources. And now if you go to the review ribbon, you have the spell check, the dictionary, workbook statistics. So review ribbon is basically if you want to, check the workbook or a worksheet, check grammatical errors in the workbook, you can use that, the review ribbon. And view is, if you want to change the view of a particular worksheet, you can change that over here. So that's, you have the normal view, the page break view. Page layout is basically, what comes, I mean, if you click on page layout, it will show you the layout of the page. So you have the header, footer, and everything. This is what the printer will print if you, print the worksheet. So you have around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 columns in per sheet. You can change that by changing the indentation and everything. That's page layout. And now if you go to the help ribbon, you have the help icon over here. So this can be used when you're stuck somewhere or something in Excel. So if you're stuck in formulating anything or calculating anything, you can click on the help icon and proceed with it. So that's just it about the Excel ribbons. Now let us move on to the home tab and let us see how we can add or enter data in a spreadsheet. Let us undo this first. So yeah, as you can see, the cell selected over here is A1. Now, if you want to enter data into a cell, you just go to that particular cell, click on it and start typing. So now if you want to, let's say if you want to type employee data, you just start typing by clicking on that cell. Now, as you can see, that data seems to be moved to the B1 cell. So that's not the case. It seems like it because employee data is not fit in the A1 cell. So you can increase the size of the cell by going between A and B and then clicking over there and scrolling it or moving the cursor. So now you can see that employee data fits perfectly fine in the A1 cell. Now, employee data, it basically contains the names of employees, email IDs, and the region that they're working in, and so on. So let us fill the first name. And now if you want to move to the next column in Excel, you simply have to press the tab button, which automatically moves it to the next, automatically moves the cursor to the next available cell. So from A2 to move to B2, we need to click on press tab button. So over here, you give the last name and the tab button again, email ID. So let us proceed with these three values for now. Let us increase the size of last name also and email ID also. And now let us fill some random employee names. So let us go with Rachel. The first name is Rachel, and then to go to the below cell from the previous cell, you just have to click on enter. It goes to the next cell down below or the next row. So and now if you click enter, it goes to the next row. Okay, and now over here you give the last name. So that's email ID. You combine both the first name and the last name and at the rate the company. So that will be Rachel dot at the rate xyz.com or something. And now also you can see that .com seems to be in the D3 cell. So what you do is you extend the size of this. So over here and now so what I'll do now is I'll create another 10 employees or so, and then we'll move on to the next part. So that'll look something like this. Yeah, that'll look something like this. So now I've added another 10 employees with their first name and the last name. Now, if you want to, get the email ID, you can use this way. So, kayla.peterson@xyz.com. Now, Ernest. So what Excel does is it takes the first name and the last name. It considered this as a pattern, and it automatically suggested the email IDs for the next, employees. So as you can see that the first name over here is Ernest, and over here it's Hankard. So that is perfectly fine. What you can do is you can just click on enter to let Excel fill the rest of the details. This is one thing, pretty good, which Excel does. Okay, now let us, get the other headings. So there's region. Region is nothing but the region where this particular employee is working. And there's items. Items is nothing but which item that the person has sold. Since this is a sales data set of a company, so you can see that items will have the item which this particular employee has sold, and then rate of that particular item and the quantity of that particular item which has been sold by the employee. So that's quantity. And finally, the total amount. Total amount is nothing but the rate into the quantity. So that's total amount. Now extend this whole column as well. Yeah, so this is one thing. And now I'll fill region and items and show you how the data set will look like. Region, items, and rate and the quantity also. So I'll fill those and show you how the data set will look like. Yeah. So as you can see, the region has been filled with south, north, east, and so on. Items consist of vacuum cleaner, toaster, water heater, hair dryer. So basically this dataset is a home appliance company dataset, and the rate of each item is, for vacuum cleaner, it's around 6,999, and the quantity or the number of units sold is around 14. So this is the, dataset which we'll be working on. And now, since rate is currency, we can use the formatting options which will be available in the home ribbon. So select from this particular value. So that's the whole column, which is from 6,999 to 2,399. So even this column is selected, since it's white in color because you've started the selection from this column. But keep in mind that even this column, even this value is selected. So now if you want to, change the formatting of this number, so you go to this number format pane, and over here, click on currency. So as you can see that the currency value has been added over here, and you can change the decimal points as well. So since there is no decimal point, you can just leave it like this. If you want, more than 2 decimal points, you can change it as well over here. So you can increase the decimal places for this. You can see that another 0 has been added towards the right of the decimal point. We'll just remove it now. Yeah. Now you can see that rate has been formatted to, currency. So yeah, this is the data set which we'll be working on. Now to calculate the total amount, what we need to do is we need to, multiply the rate with the quantity. That can be done easily using Excel. So to use any particular calculation in Excel, you need to start with an equal to sign. So that's equal to sign. And keep in mind that whenever you add any value to a cell, this is where you get the value here. So here we've started with an equal to sign, and here also you can see that there's an equal to sign over here. And now Excel does calculations easily by just selecting this particular cell, and since you want the product, we'll click on the shift 8 key, so that's star, and click on the quantity now. So that's F3 into G3. As you can see that F3 is light blue in color, so the cell which is selected over here is also light blue in color, and G3 is light red in color, and the 14 value over here in the quantity is also light red in color. Now if you just click on enter, you get some value which is the product of rate and the quantity. And here you can see that the formatting is already in currency because you've used formatting in currency over here. And now to fill the rest values, you can go to this H4 cell, and then you can press equal to, do the same thing here as well. So that's F4 into, so that's shift 8 key and then G4. You can see that the product has been formed. And now if you want to fill the rest of these values, you can use the fill handler function in Excel. So which is basically nothing but select these two column or the cells, and now you can see that the plus icon or the cursor turns to a thin plus icon, thin plus button. So when you double click or when you drag that until the end, you can see that it automatically fills up with the product values. So that is how you can use the fill handler function to copy the formulas and get the values automatically in the next rows. So yeah, this is the dataset that we'll be working on now. And now let us format the headings using the formatting functions over here. So let us select all the columns, the heading columns, and make it bold. And let us increase the size to 13 or something, or 12 is enough. Now let us merge these cells into one particular cell, so that employee data will be at the center of all the cells which we'll be working on. So that you can do using the merge and center button or the option in the home ribbon and in the alignment pane. So over here what you can do is you can click on merge and center. It combines all the columns and places the value employee data in the center of all the columns. Now let us increase the size of this font as well. So that's let us make it 15 or something, so that it will look bigger. And you can increase the size of this by clicking over here and extending it. So as you can see now that the employee data is, it is clearly visible and it's big. So let us change the font size to 18 and make it bold. Click on enter, it goes to the center. And now let us move ahead with using some basic formulas in Excel. So as you can see, go to formulas and let us get the max items sold, or the total amount of sales, the maximum total amount of sales for a particular employee or something like that. So let us type the maximum items sold and the minimum number of items sold and the largest amount of sales. That's maximum amount of sales. Let us increase this cell size, and now the minimum amount of sales. Okay, so to use a formula in Excel, remember that we need to always start with an equal to sign. So the maximum items sold is, you have to work on this particular column now. So that will be the G column over here. So the maximum number of items sold will be the maximum. So here you can see that Excel automatically suggests which all function you need to use. So now we want to use the max function, and to use a formula in Excel, after the formula name or the function name, you need to start with a bracket sign and number 1, number 2. So instead of this, we can select this whole range. We want the whole range since we want to get the maximum items sold in this particular column. So that will be G3 colon G16. This is how you define a range in Excel. So our range is now from G3 till the end of G16. So that is how you define a range in Excel. The range will be separated using a colon. And so now if you close the bracket and click on enter, you'll get 15. So as you can see that 15 is the maximum items sold. And now if you want to get the minimum items sold, the same thing can be done. So instead of maximum, now you have to go to minimum and then select the same range. So that's G3 to G16. So that's G3 to G16. Okay, you can see that there's no equal to, and that is why the formula is not happening. So now you can select the range. So that's G3 to G16. And now if you close the bracket, you get the answer as 8. Let us see if that is the least number of items sold. So yeah, that is 8. And now if you want to get the maximum amount of sales, you can use the same maximum and the minimum function to get the minimum amount of sales. But now the range will change because we need to get the maximum and the minimum total amount of sales. So the range will change from G3 to G16 to H3 to H16. So that will be equal to max of, select the range, the total range over here. So that will be this. Now if you click on enter, you get the maximum amount of sales to be 1,59,992. So yeah, the 1,59,992 is the maximum amount of sales, and the minimum amount of sales now can be done using the same way. So that's minimum, MIN, and then the range. So that's H3 to H16. So yeah, this is how you get the maximum and the minimum number of sales. Now there's something called auto sum over here in the formulas ribbon. Now if you click on auto sum, okay, let us close this. Yeah. So since we need the sum of the total amount of sales, what you can do is you can get the total over here. So that's grand total, and let us increase the size of this cell, extend this column. So now there's something called auto sum in the formulas ribbon in the Excel. So now if you click on auto sum, what it does is Excel takes automatically the values which are present over here. So it doesn't take the string values, it only takes the numeric values which are present in that particular column, and then automatically assigns a formula to it. So that's auto sum. So here, as you can see, that the range is from H3 to H16. And now if you click on enter, you'll get the total amount of sales, which is the sum of all the sales values from H3 to H16. So that is the use of auto sum in Excel, where you don't have to use the formula by yourself. Excel does it automatically for you. And now over here, since we got the total amount by using the star sign or the shift 8 key in the keypad, you can also use the product function in Excel. So that is product. So that's PRODUCT, product of F3 into G3. So that's the same again. That will be this as well. So now if you change this value to, you say, 10 or something, this value also changes and the total also changes, since formula is already applied to all the range. So that's H3 to H16. And now let us revert it back to 9 itself. As you can see, the value for 10 is around 24,990. Now if you change it to 9, the value will change to 22,491, and the grand total will also change. So you don't have to update it each and every time. The formula changes the value automatically. Okay, so now let's say if you want to get the average value of sales for this all the employees. So let us use that using this function. So that's average amount of sales. So Excel has a function which is called the average. So that's equal to AV. Yeah, as you can see that there's an average function over here. Average of the range would be from total amount. So that's H3 to H16 again. We don't have to select the grand total because it will make the value much higher, the average much higher. So the average amount of sales is rupees 65,109.64 paise. So now you can, see the value in decimal points. And I think if you want to, get the more precision value, so that will be go to home and then add another decimal value. So that will be 643. So let's just keep it to two decimal places itself. So that's 64. Yeah, so this is how you get the average value in Excel using the average function. And now let us move on to creating charts and graphs in Excel. Okay, say if you want to picture the quantity in a bar graph, you can do it using the insert ribbon. So in insert, go to charts, and you can also insert charts or recommended charts in Excel. So let's click and see what are the recommended charts that we're getting for this particular data set. So here you can see that the recommended charts have these values. So that's average amount of sales, minimum amount of sales. This doesn't make any sense. So let's go to the pie chart, which has the maximum items sold. Okay, this also doesn't make any sense. So let us, give a chart on our own. So let us create a 2D bar chart on our own. So as you can see, the chart doesn't really look good because all the values in the chart have been included in the all the values in the dataset have been included in the chart. So we can filter out the data which we don't want using the filter option over here. So that's chart filters, which looks like a filter icon. Over here, remove these categories. So that's go to names. Instead of all columns, we would need particular column. So that's let's select column A, so that we'll get the names of all the employees. Now if you click apply, you have the employee data total amount chart title, which consists of the rupees and values. So it increases in 2 lakhs, so that's 0, 2 lakhs, 4 lakhs, 6 lakhs, and so on. And as you can see over here, that in the range of the chart, the grand total also has been included. So over here you can see that there's a big line which is the grand total. We don't need that now because we only need the values for each employee, the total sales for each employee. Let us remove that. So go to filters, and over here in the employee data total amount, click on this icon. So that's edit series icon. Here what you can do is you can edit the range of the chart. So instead of H17, make it H16. Okay. And now you can see that the chart value, which the total amount was there over here, it has been removed now. So that is how you can edit the chart series. Now let's say if you want to get the chart for the quantity or the number of units sold for each employee. That also you can do using the edit series option. So over here, go to, names, and over here, go to filters and names. Instead of names, go to values itself and change the employee data total amount edit series. So here H is for, the H column is for the total amount. So as you can see, the G column is for quantity or the number of units sold. So you can change H to G. And as you can see now, you can see that the employee data total amount chart has been updated. So here instead of the total amount, we have the total number of units sold. As you can see, the chart axis value increases in sets of 2. So that's 0, 2, 4, etc. And on the y-axis, we have the first names of all the employees. So that's Susan, Lynn, Hong, Yen, and everyone else. And over here, the chart value, which has the values for each number of units sold. So as you can see that Susan has sold a total units of 15. As you can see over here, there's 15, and over here also there's 15. So that's 14 plus 1, which is in the center. So that's 15. This is, to display the total number of units sold for each employee. Now you can also edit the chart title or the chart theme using the chart design option. Over here you have numerous options which you can use it so that you can make the chart look more aesthetic. I'll be using this value, so that's I'll take this to be the chart design for myself. And now this is one way to insert a graph or a bar graph in Excel. You can also insert line graph in Excel, so that's line or an area chart. So let's use the 2D line instead of this. So as you can see over here, this shifts the values to the y-axis and the names to the x-axis. As you can see, this is not that accurate in the sense this doesn't look that good compared to the bar chart. So let us move on to the bar chart again. So that's the 2D bar chart. And you can also insert a 2D column chart instead of the bar chart. So the column chart will make more aesthetic, and it will be easier to get the values for each employee. So as you can see, this is more easier when compared to this chart, which is the 2D bar chart. It depends on your preference actually. So if you want a column chart, you can use the column chart. If you want a bar chart, you can use the bar chart. So this is how you insert charts and graphs in Excel. Now let us move on to the next part of this video. And also, instead of using different data set for each function or each explanation in Excel, I'm using the same data set so that it will be easier for you guys to get the idea of it, get the idea of what we're doing actually. Instead of using different data sets, I'm using the same data set. We'll be using different data sets in the coming part of this video. For pivot tables, HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP and everything, we'll be using different data set tables or data sets for each sections. Yeah, now let us move on to the absolute cell reference and relative cell reference in Excel. Let us move this chart to here since we don't need it now. Yeah, so now since we've already used the formula for total amount, that is product of F3 into G3, and we've already copied the formula to these rows, we'll see what the relative cell reference is. So for this row, the product is between the F3 and this G3 cells, and over here it changes to F4 into G4, and over here it changes to F5 into G5, and so on. So you can see that values are changing, the cell values are changing as and when you go down. So if the cell value changes as and when you go down, it is called the relative cell reference. So relative cell reference is nothing but the cell value, if you're using it in a formula, changes as and when you go down below the row. And since you've copied the formula of this cell and you've copied down the formula for all the rows over here, it changes according to the rows which you've copied that into. So this is relative cell reference. Now if you want to look at absolute cell reference, let us introduce another column called percentage of total amount. So that's percentage of total amount. And let us increase the size of this cell. And now the formula would be equal to the percentage numerator will be this, the total amount, and the denominator will be the grand total. And if you click on enter, you get some value which is 0.107495598, which is I think around 10 decimal points. Since we want the value to be in percentage, let us change the number formatting from this to a percentage. So that you can do it by going to the home ribbon and clicking on the number pane, click on the percent button. So it will change the formatting to percent. It will approximate it to the nearest percentage value. As you can see over here that the percent value is 11%. Now let us try copying this formula to the below rows. If you click on the fill handler, drag and drop it till where you want to copy the formula. So as you can see that the values have not been filled because there is nothing below the grand total cell. So over here below this there are no values at all. So what Excel is trying to do is take values from this part, and that is why we're getting the divide by zero error. So to change this, instead of making the formula to be H3 by H17, let us use the absolute cell reference, which is $H and $17. So that will be absolute cell reference. Now, if you click enter, you get the same value, but the only difference is when you copy the formula over here to the other rows, you'll get some percentage values. So that is the percentage of this divided by the total value. As you can see over here, the value is H4 divided by $H, $17. So this value will not be changed for formulas over here. So let us change this. Just click enter. Yeah, so this value does not change for every row over here. This value will be constant for every formula that you've copied this to. So that is for here it's $H, $17, and if you check here also it is $H and $17. So now if you want to check that the percentage function gave the right answer, that you can do by creating the AutoSum function or using the AutoSum function. Go to formulas and click on AutoSum, and that is sum. So the range would be from I3 to I6 itself, and now if you click on enter, you get 100%. Now you know that the formula which we have used and the formula which we have copied using absolute cell reference is correct, so that it is working fine since you got the total percent to be 100%. Yeah, so that is about absolute and relative cell reference in Excel. Now, like we discussed earlier, if you want to import a text file or a CSV file from your system, you can also do that using Excel. So you can see that over here there's an option called from text or CSV in the data ribbon. If you click on that, since I already have a file with the name employee_CSV, you can click on this file to open this particular file. So now if you double click on this, Excel will try to get the values from that CSV file and put it into this format. So now what you can do is you can load this into, so as you can see, I'll show you the CSV file to show you how it looks. So if I open this, so yeah, this is how a CSV file will look like. CSV file is called a comma separated value file, where each value or a record is separated by a comma. So employee name is one string and emp ID is another string, whereas gender, position, department and emp satisfaction are whole other strings. And each value is separated using a comma, which is called the delimiter. So this is how a CSV file would look like. And now if you go back to Excel, this is how it is being imported to Excel. So now if you click on load, it would automatically load this values into the Excel file. As you can see, the first row contains the employee name, emp ID, gender and everything, which is the same over here as well. And the second row contains the employee name, which is Maria Gonzalez, and her emp ID, that is employee ID, which is 198, and everything is same. You can see that the import thing worked for Excel. And also you can see that the sheet name, instead of making it sheet 1, it is employee_CSV, which is the file name itself. Now let's close the CSV file. So, and also you can see that Excel automatically formats it for us. So it has given us a color for this row and alternate colors for these rows. So Excel automatically does it for us. So now if you want to change the theme or the color of these particular rows, you can use that using this pane. So that's table design. So instead of making it green, let's make it red, or you can make it blue as well using this button. So yeah, let's just keep it red itself. So yeah, this is how you import a CSV file from Excel. And you can also import the text file using the same way. So that's data, instead of text, go to text. And if you have a text file which is separated by comma or a space, you can use that as the delimiter. Since it's comma, it is known as a comma separated value file. So that is about importing, files into Excel from your system. You can import as many rows as possible because there's no limit on the number of rows. The total number of rows in Excel is around, let us see how many. Let us check on Google itself. So the number of rows, total number of rows in Excel is, as you can see, it's 1,048,576 rows. Whereas the total number of columns in Excel is around 16,384 columns. So there is no limit on the number of rows which you can import from your system, as long as it's below 1,048,576 rows. Now let us go to the end, that is A1. Yeah. Hi guys, this is Yukendra and today I'll be discussing about VLOOKUP in Excel. VLOOKUP is an Excel function that is used to look for data in a table. VLOOKUP is known to be the easiest way to find values in a table which has a significant number of rows. The idea to sit and go through each and every row and column is a tedious task. This is where VLOOKUP comes in handy. In this video, we will look at the syntax of VLOOKUP function and how VLOOKUP can be used to perform various operations like exact matches, approximate matches, wildcard matching using a small dataset. For this video, I'll be using Google Sheets instead of Microsoft Excel just because Google Sheets is free and easy to collaborate with. And keep in mind that whatever formulas that are available in Excel are available in Sheets as well. Let us now go ahead with the demo. Now let us look at the definition and the syntax of VLOOKUP function. The V in the VLOOKUP function stands for vertical and it is used to look for a search for values in a table that is organized vertically. Let us look at the syntax of the VLOOKUP function. Always remember that a formula in Excel or Sheets starts with an equal to sign and the function name. Now, if you click on the help icon, you get the arguments which are supported by the VLOOKUP function. So there's search key, range, index, and is sorted. Is sorted can be also known as search options, which have two options, that is approximate and exact match. So the search key is the value which we want to search for. Range is the range to consider for that particular search. Index is the column index of a value to be returned. And the first column in the range is always numbered as 1 and so on. The is sorted argument is optional and it has two values, either true or false. When it is true, it is approximate matching, and when it is false, it is exact matching. We'll see more of that in the later part of this video. Now let us perform some operations including VLOOKUP functions. So this is the data set that we're going to be using. It is the HR data, which consists of 10 employees and their names, gender, position, salary, and the tax percentage, which we'll be using it later in this video. The 2019 day offs and the number of days off in 2020 by each employee. And there is the tax slab as well for each salary. So for 100,000, there's 5% tax. And for 110,000, there's 5.50% tax and so on. Now, if we want to look for the employee ID 1905 and this table, we can do that using the VLOOKUP function. So let's say if we want to look for the position of the employee ID 1905 in this table, we can do that using the VLOOKUP function and it looks something like this. So the VLOOKUP function and select the value that you want to search for. So here the value is 1905 that we can select over here. And the range now is from here till the end of this table because you want to search, or you can take it till position also, but let's just take it till the end of this table. That's A2 to I11 and then the column index. So the value of the index is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the position column is the fifth index of this whole table or the range. So let's put it as 5 there. Now you can see that the value is already given over here. Now, since you want the exact match, we'll put it as false and close the bracket. So the value which we get over here is senior product technician. Let us check if this value is correct over here. So 1905, the position is senior technician. So that's correct. And now let us see how it works for the name value. So let us search for Jessica's position using the name, and the same formula is used over here as well. So that's VLOOKUP, and the value that you want to search for is this, and the range you want to search for is, let's take from the starting itself till the end of this table, and the column name is 1 2 3 4 5 like earlier, and now false because we want to look at the exact match. Oh, what is this? It says did not find value Jessica in the VLOOKUP evaluation. Now that is because the column which we are searching for is the second column, and the range which we have selected is, like you can see over here, the range we've selected is whole of the table. So always remember that the VLOOKUP function looks for values towards the right of the selected column. So any range which is selected towards the left of the selected column will not be available in the VLOOKUP function. So let's change that to B2 now, because that is the column which we've selected. And now the position changes to 4 because from B2, I mean the from B column, the position has the index value of 4. So that's 1 2 3 4. Now as you can see, we got the value as area sales manager. Let us check if this is the right answer from here. So Jessica is the first name, so that's here, and then area sales manager, so that is right. And now always remember that the VLOOKUP function is case insensitive. So if you give caps over here, that will work good as well. So let us check that once. It doesn't change. So that conveys that the VLOOKUP function is case insensitive. Many people don't know this, but yeah. Now another way we can use VLOOKUP function is to find the first occurring value of a table. So let's say here we can see that there are two Michaels in the first name. Always remember that the VLOOKUP function always gives the first occurrence of that value. So let's see if this works out fine. Now, if we want to get the salary of the first Michael, that is Michael Riordan, so the salary is around 123,500. So let's check that now. So the VLOOKUP function will look like this, of the value which we want to select is this, and then this, and the range which we want to look at is from here, like we already discussed earlier, here till salary maybe. So the position or the index, column index is 1 2 3 4 5, and since we want the exact match, it is taken as false. So here you can see that the salary is 123,500 like we discussed earlier. Now we can look at the exact match which we've already discussed earlier. So if you want to, get the employee ID of say 1908, which is Michael. So if you want to get this first name of that particular person, we can do that using the VLOOKUP function only. So that's VLOOKUP, and selected value is this C15, and the range is from starting, since the first column is 1908, till, you can take it, since we have till salary, let us take it till salary, and then the position of the first name is the second column, so that's second column. As you can see, we already have Michael over here, and that's false now. Now, using the first name, we can find the last name as well. And keep in mind that it gives you the value of the first occurrence of Michael. So here it will be Riordan. So we don't want that now. So let's take the employee ID as the search value itself. So last name will be same VLOOKUP function of the search value is 1908, and then the range is from here till here, and the column name we want is 3, so that's ABC 1 2 3, and now we have Albert, so that's correct. We'll cancel this because it's not needed right now. So here we have Michael and Albert using the employee ID as the exact match which we want to perform. Now coming to the approximate matching using VLOOKUP. Here we have salaries and the tax slabs for each salary. So here we have 100,000 and the tax slab for 100,000 is 5%, and for 110,000 it's 5.50%. Now let us populate this tax percent column using these values. Now here we can see that this value is not present over here, and let us see how VLOOKUP approximates this tax slab for this particular value. So here the VLOOKUP function will look something like this. VLOOKUP, and the value which you want to look up for is this value, and the range will be here till here. So that's L2 to M7, and the column which you want to populate over here is the tax percentage, which is 1 and 2. And since we are looking for approximate values, the argument over here will be true. So here we can see that the tax percentage for 100,000 is 5%. Let us use fill handle to, fill these values as well. Oh, what is this? So now here we can see that some values over here are not available in the VLOOKUP function. So to solve this, instead of using normal cell reference, we'll use the absolute cell reference for this range. So that will be using the $sign over here. Now let us do this first. Let us change this formula to absolute cell reference. So that will be $L, $2, $M, $7. And now let us check if this works out fine. Yeah, so here you can see that it turned out perfectly fine. And for 124,500, it is taken as 6% because it looks up vertically down the line, and keep in mind that these values must be sorted as in ascending order. So here it look downwards to 120,000 and goes to 130,000. Now since 124,500 is between 120,000 and 130,000, it gives the least value out of those to 124,500. So if you look over here, 120,000 has 6% tax, and over here it is given 6% tax. Now we can use wildcards also to give a particular value or to get a particular value. So here let's take Jessica for example. Here there's only one Jessica in this first name column, so let us take Jess instead of Jessica. And now we'll get not available because we haven't used the wildcard yet. So the wildcard function or the VLOOKUP function with a wildcard looks something like this. So that will be H18, and since Jess is in the starting of the name Jessica, so the wildcard will come after Jess. So to use a wildcard, we use the asterisk symbol with double quotes, and rest all the function looks the same. So now if you press enter, you'll get the value as area sales manager. So that is correct. And now if you want to use the last letters of a first name, we can use that as well using the wildcard at the beginning of the name. So let's say if you want Ika, and this will change to not available again. So now this wildcard comes to the beginning of the name. So that'll look something like this: star asterisk, and then and now we'll get the value again as area sales manager. So this is how you use a wildcard in VLOOKUP function. Now coming to the multiple criterion. So in VLOOKUP, we can use two values and make a helper column to look for a particular value in a table. So here, since there are two Michaels, we can't go about looking for the second Michael's salary using VLOOKUP table. So let's use the helper column to do that. So the helper column should be put before the first name and the last name. So let's insert a column over here. Insert a column towards the left, and let's delete this. Okay, now let us name this as helper column. Okay, this VLOOKUP value, we need to change it to C2 now. D15, and that'll be 3. And last name will be 4. Let's cancel this like earlier. And now the helper column value will be equals to this space, and we give spaces, and this. So you give and space and this, select this now. So now we can see that the value over here is Maria Gonzalez. So we'll use the fill-lander to fill the rest values. So like we see over here, we have Michael Albert, which is in the same column. So now we can use this column to find out the salary of Michael Albert. So let's use the helper column. So VLOOKUP of, since we want to look for this value, it will be Michael Albert, this column, and the range which we want to search for is over here, and the number of the index column index will be 1 2 3 4 5 6. So now the value is false since we are looking for the exact value. So as you can see, Michael Albert's salary is 150,000 USD. So that is what is given over here. So this is how we use the multiple criterion using the helper column. Combine two columns to find a value of that particular person. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you're clear with the concept of VLOOKUP function. We have looked at the various operations such as exact match, appropriate matches, multiple criterion matches, and how to use wildcards to simplify your search. If you guys liked this video, make sure you hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Hello guys, this is Yugendra, and today I'll be talking about HLOOKUP in Excel with a small demo. HLOOKUP is an Excel function that is used to look for data in a table. If a table which is organized horizontally has a significant number of rows, like say 1,000 or more, then I must say this is where HLOOKUP makes a job easier to look for values. In this video, we will look at the syntax of HLOOKUP function and how HLOOKUP can be used to perform various operations using a small data set. For this video, I'll be using Google Sheets instead of Microsoft Excel just because it is free and easy to collaborate. And keep in mind that whatever formulas that are available in Excel are available in Sheets as well. Let us now go ahead with the demo. Now let us look at the definition and the syntax of the HLOOKUP function. The H in HLOOKUP stands for horizontal, and it is used to search or look for values in a table that is organized horizontally. Coming to the syntax of the HLOOKUP function, Always remember that a function in Excel or Sheets starts with an equal to symbol and the function name. Over here is HLOOKUP. And now if you click on the help icon, you'll get the arguments which are supported by the HLOOKUP function. So there's search key, range, index, and isSorted. IsSorted is an optional argument. By default, the value of isSorted is true or 1. Search key is the value that we have to search for. Range is the range that we want to consider for the search. The first row in the range is search for the key specified in search key. Index is the row index of the value that we have to return. The first row in the range is numbered as 1 and so on. The isSorted or the search options argument is to convey the type of search that we want to perform on the table. So there are two types of searches. One is exact match and the other one is approximate match. Approximate match is when the argument is true or 1, and the exact match is when the argument is 0. Now let us look at the dataset that will be performing our HLOOKUP function on. So here's the sample dataset that we will be using today. So this is the number of units sold by each employee, which is the sales dataset. So here we have the months of each year from January till December and the names of the employees and the number of units they've sold in each month. So, and there's the total units sold as well. Here we have the bonuses in rupees, which is an empty row. This will be calculating in the later part of this video. And here we have the total number of units sold and the respective bonuses in rupees. So for 100, the rupees in bonus is 0. And for 150, the rupees in bonuses is 0. And so on until 350, the total number of units sold is 350 and the rupees in bonus is 60,000. So now let us move on to some basic operations using the HLOOKUP function. Let's say if you want to find the total number of sales done by Kathy in the month of August, that can be done using the HLOOKUP function. So here, it's HLOOKUP function. And then the value that you want to search for. So let's say Kathy. And the range is the whole of this table. So from here till the end row until December. So that is H14, A2 to H14. And the row index will be August. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Because the index always starts from the starting of the range. And now since it's exact, we'll keep it as 0 itself. So that's 0. Now if you press enter, the value is 18. Let us see if this is correct. So Kathy is over here. August month is over here. So the number of units sold by Kathy in the month of August is 18. Now this is using a string. The HLOOKUP function here is using a string as a reference. We can use a cell as a reference also. That can be done using this way. So let's remove the string over here. Now instead of giving a string as an argument, let us select the Kathy row itself or the column. So now the cell reference is D2 over here. Let us look at the value that we'll be getting. The value doesn't change at all. So this can be done in two ways. One is using a string and the other is using a cell reference, which is D2 over here. Now always remember that HLOOKUP function gives the first occurrence of a particular value. So let us try using the string again. So here let us give it as Kathy. Let's edit over here itself. So now you can see that the first occurrence of Kathy is over here and the number of sales done in the August month is 18. So what if we want to get the value of this Kathy? So that can be done by using an extra character, like say the initial of Kathy 2. So that's R maybe. And here you can give it as Kathy R. Now, if you want to change the value over here, instead of Kathy, give it as Kathy R in the string. Now, as you can see, the number of units sold by Kathy R in the month of August is 25, which is over here. Now, always remember that the HLOOKUP function in Excel or Sheets is a case insensitive function. We'll look at the example of that using this name. So, Kathy R, let us change it to lowercase sensitive. So, that's smaller letters. Kathy R. And now, as you can see, the value for August doesn't change over here. Let us see if it's the same value for Kathy R. So August, it says 25, so it does not change at all. Now this can also be done using a combination of lowercase and uppercase characters. So that will be C, small a, capital T, H, Y, and R, and still the value doesn't change. So this means that the HLOOKUP function in Excel is case insensitive. Now let us fill these values using HLOOKUP function and the fill handler. So for April, Charles, the number of units sold by Charles is over here, it's 24. So we need to get 24 over here. So that will be HLOOKUP. And the search value is Charles. The range will be from B2 to H14. And since we want this range to be constant for all the values, we can use dollar symbol before the cell values. So the dollar symbol here indicates that it's the absolute cell reference. It won't change no matter what. So if we use fill handler to fill the rest of the values, the range doesn't change for those values as well. And the row index will be 5 since it's April. So here it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So April, it's going to be 5. And now since it's exact match, the search option will be false. Let us see what the value is, 24. So that's right. And for July, the index changes. So we'll have to fill that manually. So that will be, let's copy this formula over here, and then use it. And change the row index to 8. Change the row index to 8. So that will be 14. And for August, it's going to be 9. The row index will be 9. Now using these three values, you can fill these values also using the fill handler. So that will be drag and drop. Go to the corner of the right hand side and then drag the cursor. So you'll get the value. So it says did not find value 31 in the HLOOKUP function. So that means it is searching for E2 over here itself. So that's it is searching for Charles. So that will be, instead of Charles, we'll be using Daniel. So that's G2 instead of E2. I think I've selected the Charles column itself. So let us look over here and then change it to G2 instead of E3. Now, as you can see that the value is 16 over here. Let us change this to, let us use fill handler to fill these values. So it will be 40 for the month of July. Let us see if it's 40 for the month of July. No, it isn't. So let us see what seems to be wrong over here. Okay, instead of G2, it is taken H2. So let's change it to G2 again. And since it's the month of July, it is going to be 8. The row index is going to be 8. So now the value is 22. Let us see if that is right. So for the month of July, Daniel has made 22 units of sales. So here, let us change it to G2 again. And then the value over here, the row index over here is going to be 9 for the month of August. As you can see that the values are filled over here. And now we can use wildcards also to, match using the HLOOKUP function. So for Charles, let us say if you want to get the value of Charles for the month of April. So, let us change this to October to, get the values. They'll be different.
And since you want it for October, let us change it to, let's say, over here, instead of E2, let us use while character instead. So that's going to be, let's say, char. And since we are using the while character, let us say a star or an asterisk. So that means the first four characters that we're searching for is char, and it can be superseded by any number of characters. So since we're looking for Charles, it is superseded by LES. So let us see if this function works. Since we are looking for the month of October, let us change this to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So since the row index is 11, let us see what the output is. So it says 33. Let us check if this value is the same as this value. So the month of October, Charles has made 33 units of sales. So yeah, we can see that the wildcard matching also works. So let us do that for Daniel as well. So it'll be, instead of this, it'll be, let's say, let us use the wildcard at the beginning of the character now. So that'll be star and ampersand and the last three characters, let's say IEL. Let us see if this works now. Since it's the month of October, the row index changes to 11 like we discussed earlier. So let us see now. Here the value is 20. Let us see what the value for the month of October is for Daniel. So for the month of October, as you can see, the number of units sold by Daniel is 20. Now coming to this value, which is bonuses in rupees, we'll be calculating this for all the employees using this column or the row. So here we have the total units sold and the bonus in rupees for the corresponding total units sold. So here we'll be using the approximate matching instead of the exact matching. So let us use the horizontal lookup function to fill these values. So it'll be h lookup and the value that you want to search for. So it'll be 303. Range is here. So it'll be from 100 till this value. And you can use it as an absolute cell reference because it'll be the same for every value or every total unit sold. So it'll be $G, $21. And then since you want to look at the bonuses in rupees, so it is the second row that we want over here. So that will be 2 over here. The row index will be 2. And since we are looking for the approximate match, we can take the value as true. So you can see that the total number of units sold is 303 over here. So what horizontal lookup does is, and remember that these values have to be sorted in ascending order. So the bonus in rupees, the total units sold have to be sorted in ascending order, no matter what. That's how the H lookup serves through the values. So over here you can see 100, 150, 200, which is sorted in ascending order. So what H lookup does is it goes through each and every value from the starting, and once it goes to 300, it will go to next value, which is 350. Since the value of 303 comes between 300 and 350, it will give the value 300, the value of 300 to this value. So that's 50,000 to the value 303. Let us fill this for all the other columns using the fill handler. Now let us check if 30,000 is the correct value for the total units sold, which is 292. So here HLOOKUP, what it does is it scans through every column. So from 100 till 300 because it is close to 292. So, and then since 292 is less than 300, it scans, it goes to the previous column and assigns that value to 292. So the value which is getting assigned to 292 is the value of 250. So for 250, the bonus in rupees is 30,000. That is what is being assigned over here. Now let us check the same thing for 316. So HLOOKUP, what it does is it scans until 350 because the value of 316 is between 300 and 350. And then what it does is assigns the previous column's value, which is 50,000, to the value 316. And the approximate matching works only if these values are sorted in ascending order. So here you can see that the values are being sorted in ascending order from 100 to 350. And this is how the approximate matching in HLOOKUP is being done.
That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you're clear with the concept of HLOOKUP function. We have looked at the various operations such as exact match, approximate matches, and how to use wildcards to simplify our search. If you guys like this video, make sure you hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you and keep learning. Hello everyone, welcome to yet another video on Excel. I'm Yugendra and today we're going to discuss about pivot tables in Excel. Pivot tables are one of the simplest and powerful tools in Excel. It is simplest because you don't have to use any formulas, and it is powerful because with almost no effort at all, using the pivot tables, we can build good looking reports for large and tedious datasets. In this video, we will be looking at how to create pivot tables, what are the different ways we can portray data using pivot tables, and some of the advantages of pivot tables. But before moving on, for more videos on Excel, don't forget to hit the like button, and it would mean a lot to us if you could subscribe to our channel. So without further ado, we shall now go ahead with the demo. Let us now create a pivot table for this dataset. But before that, let us look at what the dataset is made up of. So it contains the employee sales data for a company XYZ, and it has the employee names, the region that they've worked in, the items that they've sold, and the number of units that they've sold, with the rate and the total amount. So let us create a pivot table for this dataset now. So to do that, let us go to Insert, and here we have two options: creating a pivot table by yourself or creating a pivot table which is recommended by Excel. As you can see, Excel already has some suggestions for us. So let us see what we can do over here. So if you want to get the sum of total amount by each region, you can select this pivot table and click on OK. So Excel, what it does is places the pivot table onto a new worksheet rather than placing it in the same worksheet. So let us check what the values are given over here. So here you can see the total amount sold in the central region is around 7,20,628, and in the east it's 10,32,785. So this is how you can place a recommended pivot table. If you want to create a pivot table by yourself, you can click on this option, and over here you can select the sheet range which you want to insert the pivot table for. And over here, instead of placing it onto a new worksheet, let us place it into the existing worksheet so that we can work easily. Here you can select the range, you can select the cell which you want to start the pivot table from. So let us select H5 and click on enter. And now if you press OK, there's a blank pivot table where you can add the fields using this pivot table pane. Let's say if you want to get the total amount of sales for each item, that can be done using this. So let's take items and drop it to rows, and then the total amount into values. What it does is it gives the sum of total amount for each item. So for air conditioner, the sum of the total amount of sales is around 16,52,542 rupees. And let's say if you want to know how employees of each region have performed, or want to get the total sales for each region, that can be done using this. So let's take the employee. Let us remove all these now. So over here, get the employee name and put it to rows, and then take the total amount and give it to values. So here you can see that James has total sales of 49,992, whereas Barbara has a total sales of 1,11,993. This is one thing.
And if you want to get the total sales by region, remove this, remove the employee name. So let's keep it here. And then instead of employee name, get the region to rows. So here you can see that the central region has around 7,20,628 rupees of sales, and the east region has around 10,32,785, and so on. Since the values that we're looking at is currency, let us format them now. Let us select all the values in the column. If you click on right click, and then you have the currency form accounting number format, and if you click on the drop down, you get the currencies. So what we want right now is the Indian currency, so that's rupees. Let us click on English and India. We'll get the rupee symbol next to the value and the commas at the places. So the grand total now is, it's the same. So the grand total is 48,80,167. Now let us see if whatever changes we do over here, if it reflects in the pivot table or not. So let us remove this now. Let us remove all of this. And now let us get the items and the units. Now you can remove the formatting over here. More accounting formats, and then number. Okay. So now you can see that the number of air conditioners sold total is around 98. So let us see air conditioner over here. Let us decrease the number of units by say 2. So let us give it as 8. Right now the change doesn't take effect. So let's refresh the pivot table. That can be done using left click and then refresh. As you can see, the number of units, the total sum of units have been decreased by 2. So this is how you refresh the pivot table if there are any changes in the main data set. Now let's say if you want to display the maximum number of units sold for an item at the beginning, that you can do it by sorting the values. So over here, if you click on sort, and you can click on largest to smallest, so you can see that the total toasters sold are 112, and the number of vacuum cleaners sold are 105. And you can also sort the values in ascending order, so that should be sort smallest to largest. You can see the least number of items sold are in the couch, and the second least number of items sold are fan and hair dryer, and so on. Also, we can have different ways to display values depending on the fields and the data we are dealing with. So let's say if you want to get the percentage of total sales by each region, we can do that using this. So let us remove all these now. Since we want the percentage of total sales by each region, we want the region over here in the rows. Let's drag and drop that. And in the values, we need the total amount. So as you can see, Central has 7,20,628. Let us format it now. Number format and currency. This is another way to format using number format option. So now let us see how to get the percentage of total sales by each region. To do that, right click and click on show values as. Over here you have many options. What we need right now is the percentage of total sales by each item or by each region. Let's say each region first. So over here you can see the percentage of grand total. We need to select this. Here you can see that the central region has 14.86% sales of total sales. And now let us sort this in descending order. Sort in largest to smallest. So you can see that the west region has sold the highest percentage of sales. And now if you want to get the percentage of total sales by each item, we replace the region with item over here. So let's do that. remove regions, and now let's place items onto rows. So it automatically takes the value. So the air conditioners have been sold for 33.45% of the total amount of sales, and the couches have been sold for 29.71%, and so on. Now let us sort this in descending order too. So sort and largest to smallest. As you can see, the hair dryers have only been sold for 2.98%, so which is the least among all of these. Now, if you want to see the details of the sales of each item in each region, that can be done by dragging items to rows, regions to columns, and sum of units to values. So let us do that. We already have items in rows. Let us drag and drop regions to columns. So over here we have the column labels as the regions and the sum of total amount over here. So since we don't want the percentage now, let us show the values as total amount. So that's show values as no calculation. Over here you have the grand total of each item. So that's for air conditioner, the total number of sales or grand total was 16,22,544, whereas for the couches it was 14,40,954, and so on. I think these are already arranged in descending order. Now we have some values which are blank over here. So we can put that to 0 by using this option. So click on this cell which is blank and yeah, show values as and more options. Or you can do this also. Go to pivot table options, and over here for empty cells show the value as 0. Okay, we got 0 backslash. Let us change that again. So go to pivot table options, and over here in layout and format for empty cells you can show it as 0. So as you can see, now it looks more aesthetic than the previous thing. Okay, so now what it does is over here we have the regions. So that's west, south, east, central, and north, and the grand total of each region as well. So in the west, the total number of sales was 12,80,950, and in the south it was 11,03,932, and so on. Now let's see if you want to group by a particular attribute. So that can be done as well. Let us move all of these to the pane. Now let us take the region. Since we want to group by the region, let us take region first and then place items below. So here we have the sales of each region and the items as well. So in West, I think almost all the items have been sold and the total amount also is given. And in South, you can see that there's no fan and there's no couch. And I think in East also all the items have been sold, and so on. So this is how you group by a particular attribute. Let's say if you want to group by items instead of region. So what it does now is the air conditioner goes to top, and couch will also be a separate entity. Let us do that. Let us move these to the pane now. And then since we want the items first, let us drag and drop that first and then the region. So here you can see that the air conditioner is a separate entity, couch is a separate entity, vacuum cleaner is a separate entity, and so on. So as you can see, this is more aesthetic than the previous one. And you can see that the couch hasn't been sold in 3 regions or 2 regions, let's say. So that the regions are north and south, and vacuum cleaner has been sold in all the regions, like you can see. So this is how you use the group by method. Now that we've discussed how pivot tables can be used in Excel, let us look at some advantages of pivot tables. So the first advantage is it is easy to use. All it takes is dragging and dropping the values onto the pivot table pane. You get easy solutions. The second advantage is that we can sort and resort the values like we did. So we did resort the values according to the total sales. So that's sorting and resorting. Now coming to the third advantage, it saves a significant amount of time since we're not using any formulas to analyze and simplify the data set. Saves significant amount of time. Saves time. And the last one, it is quite flexible. If we make any changes to the data set, we can make those changes to get affected in the pivot table with just the click of a refresh button. It's quite flexible. These are some of the advantages of pivot tables.
That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you are clear with the concept of pivot tables in Excel and how we can use them to save time and increase efficiency. We have looked at the various examples such as adding field values into the pivot tables, sorting in ascending and descending order by values, and we also looked at grouping data by different attributes. And lastly, we discussed some of the pros of using pivot tables. If you have any queries or suggestions related to this video, please comment down below and make sure to subscribe to our channel so that you do not miss out on any new tech videos from us. Hello everyone, welcome to yet another video in the Excel series. I am Yugendra and today we're going to discuss conditional formatting in Excel. Conditional formatting is mainly used in datasets which have thousands of rows together. Since there is difficulty in seeing patterns and trends just by glancing through the dataset, conditional formatting makes this job easy for us. It allows us to apply specific formatting to cells, rows and columns to highlight, emphasize or differentiate between data and information stored on a spreadsheet. In this video, we will be looking at how to use conditional formatting in Excel, what are the different types of conditional formatting that we can apply to the dataset, and lastly, how to apply conditional formatting on pivot tables. But before moving on with the video, for more videos on Excel, don't forget to hit the like button and it would mean a lot to us if you could subscribe to our channel. So without further ado, we shall now go ahead with the demo.
Since conditional formatting allows us to apply specific formatting to cells that match or meet a certain criteria, let us look at how we can use conditional formatting on this dataset. But before that, let us see what the dataset contains. So here, as you can see, this is the employee sales data and it contains the employee name, region, items, units, rate, and the total amount. So in the region, it contains South, North, East, Central and West. That is the region which the employee is working from. And the items that they've sold. So these are the house appliances. So there's vacuum cleaner, toaster, water heater, and so on. And the number of units that they've sold, the rate of each unit, and the total amount, which is rate into the number of units. And also, as you can see that there's a pivot table also which I've created over here, which has the items and the total sales amount of that particular item. So the total amount of sales for couches is around 24,83,980 and so on. So let us see how we can apply conditional formatting to this dataset. If you want to find the conditional formatting option in Excel, you can find it in the Home tab, and in the Home tab, you can find it in the Styles pane. So over here, if you click on conditional formatting, you have different rules which are already present. So there's highlight cell rules, top bottom rules, data bars, color scales, icon sets, and you can also create a new role based on your condition. And over here in manage rules, you can either edit, delete or create a new rule. So before applying these rules to our dataset, let us select the range for which we want to do the conditional formatting on. So let's say if you want to apply conditional formatting on this, and the criteria is, let's say if the total sales amount for each employee is above, let's say 80,000. So that you can do it over here. So go to conditional formatting and select highlight cell values, and over here you can click on greater than So let's say if you want to highlight all the values which have sales greater than 80,000, so that can be done over here. Let's say 80,000, and with the light red filled with dark red text. So over here, you can see that all the cells which have the amount which is greater than 80,000 have been highlighted. So over here, you can see that 80,991 has been highlighted like we saw earlier. Now let's say if you want to, highlight all the cells which have sales less than 80,000. So that means over here, this value will be normal. I mean, it won't be highlighted. Let's check if that works or not. Let us select the entire column and unselect this cell. And now go to conditional formatting, highlight cell rules. Now let us click on less than instead of greater than. Over here, select the value as 80,000. So that's 80,000. Now, as you can see, all of the values are being highlighted in this column because two rules are being applicable over here. One is total amount less than 80,000 and the other one is total amount greater than 80,000. So obviously all the values will be selected over here or highlighted over here. Let us remove the first rule, which is the greater than 80,000 rule. Over here, the cell value greater than 80,000. Let us delete this rule and apply, and now click on OK. So if you scroll down, you can find the value 80,991 is not highlighted. So that means it is working. So now let's say if you want to find the number of units greater than 10 or highlight the number of units which are greater than 10, that can be done using this. So highlight this column, select this column and select units cell. So conditional formatting, highlight cell rules greater than 10. So it will highlight all the values or cells which have the value greater than 10. So as you can see, it works perfectly fine over here. So now let's say if Sam Athwell has sold additional 3 units over here, additional 3 fans over here. So we have to change that value as well. So let's change it to 11 since he sold additional 3 fans. Now conditional formatting, what it does is it highlights this row as well. So we don't need to apply conditional formatting again and again. It automatically takes the value and applies the conditional formatting itself. Let us see if it works or not. So yeah, you can see that it works perfectly fine. Now let's say if you want to get the top 10 values or top 10 highest number of sales, that can be done using this. So let us clear all the rules first. Clear rules from the entire sheet. And now, so click on this and unselect this and go to conditional formatting and go to top/bottom rules. Over here, you can click on top 10 items. So as you can see, the highlight color is light red filled with dark red text. So if you click on OK, you can see that there are certain cell values which are highlighted, and those are the top 10 values or top 10 highest number of sales which have been highlighted. And the same thing can be done for bottom 10 as well. So let us do the same thing. But before that, let us clear the rules. And this time you can select clear rules from selected cells. And now go to conditional formatting again, top/bottom rules. So over here, go to bottom 10 items. And now you can see that the bottom least amount of sales have been highlighted over here. So that's 10,392 and 19,485 and so on. Now let's say if you want to select the whole row or a record which contains an employee who's working from the south region or any region as a matter of fact. So let's go with east region now. Let us clear the rules first, and then so for this we need to select the entire data set. So over here what you'll do is select the entire data set. So that's here. Select over here and then go to conditional formatting, go to new rule, and over here we can use a formula instead of selecting the already given rules. So the formula here will be And also always remember that a formula in Excel always starts with an equal to sign. Otherwise, it does not read that it's a formula. So let us give the equal to sign, and over here, since we need the region column, let us take B2, and the B2 value should be, since we're looking for employees from the East region, it should be East. So that's B2 equal to East. And let us give a formatting options. So let us select font to be bold, and then fill, let us select light blue color, so that it'll look fine. Click on OK. So the formatting options have been set, and then if you click OK, so over here it selects only the employee name. So to select the whole row, we can do this. So select the whole dataset again, and before that, let us clear this rule first, which is highlighted in red and has bright red text. So go to manage rules and remove this one. Okay. And now go to conditional formatting again, manage rules, and edit this rule. So over here, instead of B2, we give $B2 so that it selects the whole record or the whole row. Now if you click on OK, as you can see that it selects the whole record or the whole row, and the formatting options are bold text and light blue highlighting. So you can see that it is highlighted all the records where the employee is working from the East region. So this is how you select the whole row using conditional formatting in Excel. Now let us do the same thing for the items. So let us select the employees or the records where the items that they've sold is a water heater. So let us clear the existing rules first. Select the rules from entire sheet. So all the rules have been cleared now. And now select the whole data set till 86. And now go to conditional formatting. Go to new rule. And over here, the formula one again. And over here, the formula should be equal to. So since we want the items, so that's C column and second row. So that will be $C2 equal to, since we wanted the water heater, so that should be written in quotes. And now let us click on the format option over here. Fill, let us use light red color. So that's light red or orange. So let us select this color. It is a light shade of red. And click on OK. And now go to font. Let us use it as bold itself because it will clearly be seen. And that's about the formatting options. And if you click on OK, so this is how the entire row would look like if it is highlighted. And now if you click on OK, you can see that all the values or records which have employees who sold the water heater has been selected. So that is how you can use the conditional formatting to select or highlight the entire row in Excel. And now you can also use conditional formatting this way. So let us clear the rules first, entire sheet. So over here you have data bars and color scales. So data bars is nothing but over here, as you can see, let us select the data set first. So selecting the data set, and then since we want the data bar only for this, let us select only this column and click on conditional formatting. And now if you hover on these values, so as you can see, as and when you hover on these options, there is a change over here as well. So that is, as and when you hover over here, the data bars have been put to that column. So the data bar, the highest data bar is the value which has the highest total amount of sales is higher, and the data bars usually work like this. So the highest value, I think it's 44,19,988. So whatever value which is lesser than that, will be taken as a portion of that value. The data bar will be as a portion of that value. So 42,291 will be a portion of this. So the data bar is comparatively smaller when compared to 4,19,988. So this is how you can use data bars in Excel to make it look more aesthetic. And also you can use the color scales. So over here, okay, again let us select the entire column, selecting the column, and then before that let us clear the rule first from selected cells, and then go to conditional formatting, go to color scales now. So over here you can see that apply a color gradient to a range of cells. The color indicates where each cell value falls within that range. So as you can see, green is on the higher end, light green is on the above average end, yellow is average, light red is below average, and red is on the lower end. So as you can see over here, after you click this thing, you can see that the highest value, which is 4,19,988, has been highlighted in dark green, and the lowest value, as you can see over here, it is I think 16,900, and it is highlighted in the color dark red. And let's say the average value which you can find over here is let's say 80,991. This is highlighted in the color yellow or orange. That is how the highlighting works over here. And since we have a pivot table over here, we can use conditional formatting for a pivot table as well. That you can do it over here using this thing. So let us select this value or this value, and if you want to get the bar or a data bar, you can select this thing. So over here you can see that the total value is 73,57,180, which is the bar is completely full. And as you can see, the bar decreases as and when you go down, because it is already arranged in descending order. So the highest number of sales for a particular item is for the couches, which is around 24,83,918, and for the AC it's 23,07,359. You can see that these bars are quite close to each other or quite equal, because there's I think only around 1,75,000 difference. So that is how you use conditional formatting for a pivot table. It works the same way like it works on the data set. The only thing you have to do is you select the range and go to the same option, that is conditional formatting. Select the range, go to conditional formatting. Here you can select whatever rules you want to select, or you can create your own rules which you want to give to the pivot table. That is how you can use conditional formatting for a pivot table.
That is the end of this video on Excel for beginners. Today we learned about how one can use Excel for your daily tasks to make it more efficient and simple. This is all you would need as a beginner who is trying to learn Excel. You can play with datasets created by you, or you can download datasets from Kaggle to practice whatever that we have discussed today. For more advanced features of Excel, try to explore a lot of resources on the internet. Microsoft even has a free forum where you can access all the tutorials, the basic ones. For more such tutorials on many technologies, do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.